When looking at the designs of new Pokemon, some of them are really easy to figure out. I mean, Yungoos is a mongoose, Pikipek is a woodpecker, and Drampa is the love child of Falcor and Snoop Dogg. It's not hard, but some of these Pokemon are a lot more difficult, that when we look at it, we might need to do a little bit more research and get some information going for these Pokemon to really figure out what they represent. That's also a really good thing, that there's been a lot of hate for all these Pokemon just because the designs look too weird or they don't fit into the Pokemon theme, but the more you understand about them, the better you might feel. That I've already seen in just a couple days these Pokemon grow on quite a lot of people, so let's also try to figure out what they represent and how this is working towards the Alola region, which might give us some hints on what to expect in the future. Also, I want to add my friend Turret Mob helped me out with this video because it's just good to have someone to double check and fact check and find other information, or at least make sure the video makes sense. I don't want to screw it up too much, so this was a pretty big help to actually me not being lazy and making a video like this. First off, we have Tapu Koko. This Pokemon has already captured the imagination of many people because it was mentioned in the E3 video that, okay, Tapu Koko, what does it do? It's an island guardian, and we know nothing else about it. It was speculated as what it could be, and this is the Pokemon that came about of it. So we see it crashing from the sky, disrupting a pack of Spearow, and then it goes and starts fighting, and it looks all cool and stuff. Now, obviously, this looks like the tikis that we see on the island, that there's a lot of totems just throughout the item, and it seems to bear some kind of resemblance. Now, when it comes to Hawaiian mythology, tikis aren't 100% true representations of the subject matter, that they just kind of take this totem-like inspiration, and, you know, sometimes it can work out. So I think that there's enough of a similarity here to at least have some kind of representation that each island's guardian is represented throughout the island in some way, and I don't think that this is unreasonable to think about. Now, I think the biggest thing about Tapu Koko is that when it comes to Hawaiian mythology, there are 4 main gods, and interestingly enough, in the Alola region, there's 4 islands, and each has a guardian. So the speculation is that each island has some form of Hawaiian god guarding over it, and this seems closely resembling to Ku, the god of war. I mean, just looking at Tapu Koko's design, you can kind of get that feeling from it. You know, it's wearing war paint. It seems like some kind of warrior fighter going for it. It's almost carrying shields or whatever this outer shell that it's wearing, but it also has an intimidation factor to it. Kind of like a tribal warrior outfit. It also has a plumage going on off of its head. It feels like some very powerful fighter and maybe even a representative of a deity of war. And then we can also go and look at some of the Hawaiian representations of Ku, the god of war, and the coloration is very, very similar. The yellow, orange, the darker gray color that's almost a black. You know, it seems pretty fitting right there, which does open up a lot more for the Alola region. Does this starts to strongly confirm that we might expect more of these guardians from the islands to represent the other deities of Hawaii. And that could be pretty cool. Next up, we have Charjabug, a charging terminal. I mean, I'm not even kidding right here. Its mouth looks like some kind of USB port, and it seems to be some kind of play on like USB bus or charging bus or some kind of terminal like that. I mean, you can see it almost has like 2 wheels for its design, windshields, its face plates off that. Also, its name, it's called Charjabug. It's a charging station. I don't really think there's much else to say. But then when we go to Vikavolt, it gets a little more crazy because it seems like some kind of crazy techno beetle that it has not quite a full-on Transformer feel to it, but you can definitely see the electricity inspiration coming on through some kind of mech designs, and it almost has a lot of Arwing inspiration as well. I mean, very, very resembling right there. So it's a Beetle Arwing that might also have some other kind of cannon powers. Like if you take it from Gundam, you know, sometimes there's just like those split charging beam blast things. And that's really what I get from the pincers of its face actually turning into some kind of charging station. And we can see that it can hone and shoot blasts straight from its mouth while also being kind of ridiculous in that way. It does have the levitate ability. I was expecting like speed boost or maybe no guard or something else like that, but overall this is what we have, and you can also see that it seems to be based off a stag beetle in some way. You know, we saw that Grubbin, it seems like a beetle larvae, and then now when it evolves, you know, it seems to become some kind of horned beetle, and stag beetle seems closely fitting while also having all kinds of other crazy mech inspirations, so I think that's pretty cool. And now we're on to Drampa. So if you read Drampa's flavor text, you actually get some pretty cool things about it. That it lives up in the mountains, but it comes down just to hang out with children and stuff during the day. You know, that where children gather, parks and schools, they go and play around. So it's like a friendly dragon to go and hang out with. That's also, you know, very humble, very docile. You know, it's a very gentle Pokemon, and it just wants to be appreciated, which I think is pretty cool and a little bit adorable. So a little bit of Dragon Tales vibes, and also it seems to be very similar to Puff the Magic Dragon. Puff the Magic Dragon comes out of his cave and then hangs out with the children, and that's cool. Except that song is actually tormented me for my entire life. I hated when, like, I know you're watching this, Mom. I hated when you sang me that bedtime story. I know you knew because I would just scream because I did not like it. It's a very depressing song, honestly. I don't want to be talking about it, but it seems, you know, that there's some kind of Puff the Magic Dragon inspiration. But overall, the kid grows up and then he makes the dragon depressed by not playing with him anymore. No, Drampa's better than that, and he goes to the schools and kids are going to love him, and that's okay. And next up, we have Bruxish. It's the love disc of the region. I don't really like it too much, but that's okay. I understand all of the inspiration. I think it works for the region. It's just not to my taste. Now, it seems to be based off a triggerfish, and fortunately, that is the official state fish of Hawaii. And now we can see there's other triggerfish species that are very bright, very colorful, have all kinds of patterns going on for them, like the queen triggerfish. You can see that there's more of that diamond shape going on, and also Pokemon has these habits of making generic fish shapes. That looking at Finneon, you can kind of see that, you know, maybe the more just rounded off tail is a simple fish design going on. Now, the little flower that is on Bruxish's head actually seems very akin to something like an anglerfish, that it uses this to lure in prey, or some kind of other fish that, you know, at least has a little appendage that it uses to attract prey. But also, Bruxish has some very vibrant colors, and these are incredibly tropical colors that, you know, those pinks, those very light blues and yellow colors. It's very resembling of a reef, but also whenever you see some kind of paint scheme or color scheme, you know, that coral pink, all those lighter colors, they really work out with the tropical feel. So from a design inspiration, you can see all kinds of crazy stuff that while it might not be the most natural looking Pokemon, it does very strongly resemble a triggerfish. And then you just look at Bruxish and you immediately think tropical fish, so it's doing something right. And then we have Cutiefly. It's just a little buzzy bug thing that's chilling there and doing its own thing. Now it seems almost to be directly inspired from the bee fly, just a fluffy little fly that kind of looks like a bee that's just very gentle and delicate, but also, yeah, it has like those just little buggy things going on to it. Now we can also read the flavor text about Cutiefly, and it gets a little more interesting. It can detect the auras of living things, including people, so it's a Pokemon in that regard, that it's not just straight up ripping off a bee fly, or it's not too real world, that, you know, Pokemon, they have some kind of things, you know, Charmander's just a lizard, but it breathes fire. So Cutiefly is just a bee fly, but it also is a fairy typing Pokemon that can detect the auras of living things, and that might have a very strong play when it fully evolves and stuff like that. So people, Pokemon, and plants, they search out flowers by the color and brightness of their auras, so also color aura reading, which is its own interesting little subculture of ideas. When living creatures are excited, it has the auras of those flowers in full bloom, so the Pokemon gather by people that are feeling those kind of emotions. Cutiefly mostly live in the fields and meadows outside of cities, but they sometimes appear in towns or even inside buildings, drawn in by the emotions of living beings of the community. That's pretty cool. You know, you have like a flower garden outside or some kind of potted plant, and there's a Cutiefly buzzing around, just kind of getting a feel for what's going on. And lastly, we have Togedemaru. I think it's absolutely adorable, and it's also just straight up a hedgehog Pikachu. That we have our Pika clone for the region, and it's a hedgehog, so it shoots lightning while also being spiky. It has the Iron Barbs ability, and it's just a cute ball of cute. I want it. I want to know what it does. It seems awesome and so happy, so there we go. So that's what we have for all the Pokemon that were revealed. We can figure out what they are. Some of them kind of obvious, some of them you just need to know about it. Like, I think the Beefly is one of the more interesting ones. It's like, I've never really heard of it, but oh my goodness, it's such a close inspiration. And then when you think about the other ones, okay, once you start learning about the Hawaiian mythology and you kind of piece all that together, looking pretty serious right now. As for the other two Pokemon, Kamala and Rockruff, I'm still stuck on like Nekawala and Wonko, but either way, you know that Rockruff, it's a dog, and it's a rock type, so you can see all the inspirations there. It's also an incredibly loyal Pokemon. And then Nekawala, since koalas sleep most of their life and they don't do much, boom, koala Pokemon that has a stump body pillow. Good stuff. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hope maybe you think something differently about the Pokemon. Maybe you guys also know something like there's probably some kind of Japanese mythology that goes straight into what Drampa really represents. Or maybe there's something extra on the Hawaiian side that could relate to Tapu Koko and reveal more about the other Guardians of the Islands. Other than that, it's like somewhat straightforward, somewhat a little bit of information needed. You know, you might not have known what triggerfish is. I grew up in Florida, so that was one of the first things I see, and that's what we got. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. Also, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. Let's shoot for positive likes today. Wolfpack Nation now over 180,000 dislikers.